New York Rangers goalie Jonathan Quick wins the game by throwing his stick at Swaggy Pete. That is a sentence I never thought I would say on this podcast.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1120 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So right off the bat here, I do feel like some explaining is probably in order. If anybody was kind of lost by that introduction sentence that I gave you just about a minute ago, then I should probably explain this a little bit better. So last night, and some of you are already aware of this, some of you were even at the event. I heard from a couple of you that attended it. But basically last night in Stamford, Connecticut at Terry Connors Rink, we had the second annual Shoulder Check Showcase. And it's something that has already become an annual tradition, and it seems like it's going to keep going and works out nicely for me because I work at WWE. It's a 10-minute drive to get over there, and just a really nice night, a really nice event. And to kind of give you guys some background, and I've been talking about it a little bit in the episodes. I mentioned it once or twice already leading up to last night's event, but again, just so everybody kind of has a background and understands what this charity hockey game is and what it's all about and how it kind of came to fruition. So Shoulder Check Showcase is a charity hockey game put on by the HT40 Foundation. HT40 was created in honor of the late Hayden Thorsen. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 16 when he took his own life. And, even just saying that again, it's a really rough situation. Obviously, 16 is just far too young to lose anybody at that age for any reason. And, Hayden is somebody that was loved by all. He was from Darien, Connecticut. Hockey's big in Darien. Hockey's big, honestly, throughout all of Connecticut these days, but it's huge in Darien and New Canaan. That's like a big rivalry every year. But yeah, Hayden was a goalie for his hockey team and, known as a very good player, but more importantly, just known as a really, really good kid and somebody that was always there for everybody. You think back to high school, and I think all of us are probably guilty of this at one time or another when we were in high school, and some of you listening to this might be in high school right now, but there is kind of a tendency to just fall into your own little group of friends, your own little clique, call it whatever you want to call it. But by all accounts, Hayden Thorsen, he wasn't that guy. He's somebody, obviously he had friends, but he was somebody that would talk to anybody, that would check in with anybody, see how they're doing, how are you, just making sure that everybody's okay. And again, just a sad situation that, he left us far too early. But the one thing that came out of this is that, the HT40 Foundation was established. It was created in his name and his honor. And a part of what the HT40 Foundation does now is the annual. And again, I can only assume this is going to keep going and going because, it really is a wonderful event. And they packed the house last night. The Shoulder Check Showcase. That's what it's called, the charity hockey game. And again, that occurred last night in Stamford, Connecticut. So, again, I've talked about what this is and kind of giving you guys a little bit of a preview in some recent episodes of the Shoulder Check Showcase. So I figure we can go ahead, do a quick roll call here. We had a lot of New York Rangers participating in this, actually more former Rangers than current Rangers. But regardless, a lot of NHL stars showed up. Guys from the AHL were there, the PWHL as well. But as far as current Rangers, you had Chris Kreider, Matt Rempe, and Jonathan Quick, and also Berard. He hasn't made his Ranger debut yet, but I think that's on the way probably sooner rather than later. Kreider, Quick, and Berard were all there for the second time. Matt Rempe was making his first appearance. Matt Rempe scored a goal. I believe Kreider ended up with 2 goals plus a shootout goal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll get into the game details in just a little bit here, but Jonathan Quick was awesome in this game. I would honestly say he was probably the MVP. Berard had at least 1 assist, and Matt Rempe scored the second goal of the game. And on Berard's assist, he set up Abby Roque of the PWHL's New York team for a goal. So what I want to do, obviously I was there, and it's a very intimate setting. For anybody that's been to Terry Connors Rink, you know what I'm talking about. It's not the biggest hockey rink ever, but it sounds like they see a maximum capacity of 250 people. And honestly, when you're on the top row, when you're on like the top row of the bleachers, you can literally reach up and touch the ceiling. But it makes for a really intimate event and just a really nice setting for an event such as this. And so I took a couple of videos while I was there, and I thought it might be nice if I shared a couple of those throughout the episode here. So this first one I'm going to share with you guys. And for anybody listening on audio, don't worry, I'll kind of talk you through it. I've got you covered. And if you want, you can go back later on YouTube. I posted a bunch of these videos already, but what I'm going to do right now is play the first video that I took from this night. You're going to get some player introduction for Jonathan Quick and also Matt Rempe. So here we go.
With the New York Rangers, Matt. From the Anaheim Ducks, Vatrano.
And so, yeah, as you can see, I went ahead and included Frank Vatrano in that as well. He's obviously a former New York Ranger. Matt Rempe got the biggest ovation of the night, and he spent a lot of time talking to a lot of fans outside the building before the event even started, and obviously, spent a lot of his time with some kids there, and it was really a cool thing. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But you had current Rangers, you had former Rangers, guys like Frank Vatrano, who you just saw in that video there, or if you're on audio, you just heard in that video. Ryan Strome was there as well. So too was Kevin Shattenkirk. Former Ranger Marty St. Louis was one of the coaches for the second straight year. Kevin Hayes was supposed to be there, but I guess was unable to make the trip because, as it turns out, he was not there. Maybe Kevin Hayes can get there next year. We shall see. Dave Maloney was also back this year. He was on crutches and was also in a boot, but I was told that it's something that's considered fairly minor. You know, he's no worse for the wear. We know Dave is tough. Sounds like he's all right. But he did an awesome job emceeing the event for the second consecutive year, just kind of welcoming everybody into the rink and letting everybody know what this night was all about. And then we get John Brancy, and he performed the national anthem without a microphone, which I don't know. I mean, is that a thing that like ever happens? Like, I've never really heard of this, and it's a small enough rink that you can make it work. Honestly, after seeing this, and I'm going to play the video in just a second, I'd like to see him try this at Madison Square Garden. Now, obviously, the Garden is a lot bigger. We understand that, and it'd be hard for his voice to carry throughout a building that big. But if anybody could pull it off, I get the feeling it's John Brancy. But with no further ado, let me go ahead and share part of the national anthem, the last minute or so here from John Brancy. Just a really cool thing. Again, it just kind of fit the tone of the night and worked very well in such a smaller rink and such an intimate setting. So I'll go ahead and I will play that right now. He's the best. He's the absolute best. I mean, what can you say? There is nobody better right now than John Brancy at doing the national anthem. Obviously, I'm a little biased being a Ranger fan, but then we also had, I would say, probably one of the more emotional moments of the night, probably one of the heavier moments of the evening. Hayden Thorsen's sister spoke before the game, took the microphone. She was out, on the ice there, and she spoke after, all the player introductions, and I believe it was after John Brancy's national anthem. I might have the order backwards, but she spoke before the game, and very powerful, just kind of welcomed everybody into the arena, and obviously very, very difficult thing for her and her whole family to go through, but she went out there and again, addressed everybody, and again, I think just kind of set the tone for the night, and just explained very well what Shoulder Check Showcase and what the HT40 Foundation are all about. I wish I would have gotten a video of that too. My bad on that. We'll definitely make it happen next year if she is to address the crowd again. But I also have to give a big shout out, a big thanks to both Ken Smith as well as Hayden Thorsen's father, Rob Thorsen. Both of them for 2 straight years now. Again, this is the second annual time that this event has been put on. Have been so nice to me, so welcoming to me, so accommodating to me. I reached out to both of them, mentioned that I'd love to be able to cover this for the Locked On New York Ranger podcast. And they basically said, yeah, come on in, anything you need, we'll make it happen and come say hi and all that good stuff. And got to talk with Ken for a couple of minutes last night. So if Ken's watching, again, big thank you, big shout out. And it's just a wonderful evening for a great cause. It's a simple message, but a very powerful message, making sure that nobody feels alone and just making sure essentially that we have each other's backs day in and day out. So again, wonderful message and truly enjoyable night of hockey there and just a good night in general. So going to go ahead and keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to shift our attention to, we're going to be talking about this game for the entire episode, obviously, but I want to talk a little bit about some of the lighter moments that happened in the game, that there were some funny moments among the players and whatnot. It really is a unique event. And also want to talk about Matt Rempe and just seeing him connect with the younger fans the way that he does, because it's one of those things, like, I've always been aware of it. I know that Matt Rempe, like, people love him, right? Ranger fans love him for the most part. There's always a few naysayers, no matter what player it is, but for the most part, Ranger fans really like Matt Rempe. And I knew that he was popular among like younger fans, but I didn't realize, like, it's different when you see it up close and personal. I'll explain what I mean by that right here on Locked On New York Rangers in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right. So, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn on the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, yeah, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling. This is the special Shoulder Check Showcase edition of Locked On New York Rangers. And, I mentioned a second ago, gave the big shout-out to both Ken Smith as well as Rob Thorsen. And Rob actually wrote me back. I emailed him not too long ago, right before I hit record here, a couple hours ago, asking me if they knew how much money was raised during the night. He doesn't have an exact figure yet. If he eventually shares it with me, I will share those numbers from Rob with you guys in a future episode. But yeah, the building was packed. 2,250 is max capacity. Apparently they were at that. And that also includes, or rather does not include, I suppose, the players and also the volunteers that were there as well. So it might include them, it might not, but you get the idea. About 2,250 people in the building. And that is about all that it can fit. From somebody that attended in each of the last 2 years, I can definitely confirm that. So yeah, a lot going on outside the arena before the game. And one of the biggest things that kind of stood out to me was Matt Rempe. The players, there's a walkway that they kind of rope off for the players to go through from the parking lot right into the rink there. And a lot of the players, most of them, in fact, I would say, they will stop and sign autographs, take pictures, whatever the people want, whatever the people need. And Matt Rempe was there. He was there forever. He was out there before I got to the arena. And he, like, there was a video that surfaced before I got there, and he was like underneath a tree, like he's a tree too. And that joke was made by the person that posted this on Twitter, but he was underneath a tree, and he was signing autographs there. And I saw where that tree was, and then I saw where Matt Rempe was. He did like an entire circle around like both sides of the roped off area. Matt Rempe was not going to leave that area until literally every kid there had an autograph, a picture, or whatever it was that they wanted. And I posted a picture of it on Twitter that has like 1,100 likes, and people really like Matt Rempe. But it's a funny picture because he's got his backwards baseball cap, and he's got like 3 or 4 Sharpies sticking out the side of it. So he's already a pro. Like, he knows how to do this. He's only been like in the spotlight for far less than a year. I mean, a couple of months, really, because the first time he debuted for the Rangers, people had heard of him. Maybe if you follow this team closely enough, you follow all the draft picks and everything. But he burst onto the scene in the NHL in that outdoor game against the Islanders, which I believe was that in February. It's hard to remember off the top of my head, but it's only been a few months, and Rempe Mania is still absolutely running wild. The kids absolutely love him, and again, I mentioned this a second ago, right before we took our break there, but he has such a connection with younger fans. And it's one of those things that, as I mentioned a second ago, I was kind of already aware of it, kind of knew about it. But man, when you're like 20 feet away from Matt Rempe and you see all the way these kids gravitate to him, and you see like, the way that he interacts with them, and again, just he was not leaving that area until everybody got what they wanted. And that's a really cool thing. And I think a lot of times for pro athletes, when they're young, they do that, and then they get a little bit older, and like, I don't want to say jaded, but maybe it just kind of becomes old hat, and it just kind of becomes routine a little bit, and that stops. But if Matt Rempe can be that guy going forward, that's a really cool thing. I was also told that Jonathan Quick was out there for a really long time as well, but I believe he got to the rink before Matt Rempe did, so I missed Jonathan Quick out there. But yeah, just a really cool setup, and there's only so many people there, and it's just such a treat for everybody who gets to attend. And again, it is truly for an absolutely wonderful cause. I did also want to talk about some of the later moments of the hockey game itself, and it was an exciting game. Went to a shootout. We'll get to the details of that. A lot of things happening involving the Rangers down the stretch in the second half of the game, as well as in the shootout. But some of the lighter moments, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what was going on during the game. And for anybody that was there, you get a chance to relive it here. So first and foremost, you've got the format of the game. It was different this year. They did 5v5, whereas last year it was 4v4. They also did 2 25-minute halves, which I believe is how they did it last year. Not 100% on that, but they also went with a running clock. Goal was scored. Any kind of play stoppage, the clock just keeps going. They keep everything moving, and they keep everything happening at a fast pace. And while I'm thinking about it, not much of an intermission either. You get 3 minutes between the two halves, so that was kind of funny as well. They should do that in the NHL. Just make them keep playing 3 minutes, get back out there, keep going. But yeah, no face-offs. If a team scored a goal, the team that gave up the goal would just basically fish the puck out of their net and just go back up the ice in the other direction. So very casual, very laid back, and a very fun game, which again, very fitting given what this was for, the being a charity hockey game. Matt Rempe, this was a funny moment before the game. He goes up and bear hugs Chris Kreider. There was actually a picture of that floating around on social media as well. And Colin Stevenson and Jim Cerny, or Cherney it might be, both reporting that Matt Rempe is not going to be heading back to Alberta. Instead, he's going to stay in the area, and he's going to train with Chris Kreider for the rest of the summer. And that's awesome. It's great that Rempe is, very determined to work on his game. We talked about how he was out there with George Laraque working on his fighting, and now it sounds like he's going to work on some other things with Chris Kreider. And it's awesome on Kreider's end too. Obviously, the longest tenured Ranger, somebody that could go down as the all-time leading goal scorer for the Rangers when it's all said and done. And great that he's willing as a leader of this team to step up and mentor a young player such as Matt Rempe. I also mentioned the connection, between Matt Rempe and the fans, and specifically the younger fans. That was on display when the game started as well, because not more than, I would say, 10 seconds after the puck dropped, they were right in front of me. There was a group of kids there that started chanting, "We want Rempe." So that was pretty funny in and of itself. The young fans absolutely love this guy, and you can see why. Obviously, the fighting is fun and the big hits are fun, but, Matt Rempe obviously spending a lot of time with the kids before the game, and he's very young himself. I mean, Matt Rempe, I think he's only like 22 now. He was 21 when he debuted, so just good stuff all around there. We also had the game start with a couple of shootout attempts by each team. Apparently, Murray St. Louis' team won the shootout. I didn't see a puck go in, but I probably just missed it. Swaggy Pete and Coach Chippy, they were the two that participated in the shootout. And it's funny because Murray St. Louis' team was supposed to be awarded a goal for winning the pregame shootout, which they were not on the scoreboard initially. Apparently, Murray St. Louis himself let the scorer know that, hey, we got a goal there, put it up on the board. So yeah, that's just kind of funny. Murray St. Louis competitive as ever. You also had Trevor Zegras. He's out there trying to put on a show, and obviously he can do a lot of good things with the puck. Very just ridiculously talented player. He's very popular among young fans as well. He tried to do that move, and I don't have a video of this, but he tried to do the move where a couple of years ago when he's on the Ducks, he's behind the net. He gets the puck up on his stick blade there, and he flips it over the net looking for a teammate to bat it in. He actually was able to do his end of the deal in this game. Unfortunately, there was just nobody there in front of the net that could knock it home, but that would have been wild to see. Apparently, there were also a lot of young Ranger fans going up to Zegras and asking him about being traded to the Rangers, and he was just kind of laughing it off. That happened earlier in the day before the game. You never know. I mean, we can talk about that in a future episode. I do want to keep the focus on the charity game here, but we go to the shootout. We'll get to the shootout details in a little bit, but there was actually one more or two more moments here I want to talk about as far as kind of later moments of this evening. Chris Kreider and Mason McTavish, they both got tangled up and fell down to the ice, and you kind of hold your breath just a little bit. You don't want to see anybody falling down in a game like this, especially a player for the Rangers, if you're a Ranger fan, as I assume most of you are. But Kreider and McTavish both went down. They had gotten kind of tangled up, and the puck goes in the opposite direction. McTavish's team has the puck, and they're going the other way. And Kreider had gotten back up at this point, and he must have been hooking McTavish for like 10 straight seconds. He just wouldn't let him go. So that was kind of funny. And the refs let it go. No penalties being called in this game, obviously. So that was kind of one of the later moments as well. Swaggy Pete tried the Michigan. That was later in the game in the second half. Couldn't quite pull it off. They kind of saw what he was doing and put a stop to that pretty quickly. But again, just kind of some of the later moments, some of the fun moments of this game. Again, just for obviously a wonderful cause. So we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to shift our attention to kind of the big finish here and have some final thoughts on the event as a whole. And we are going to get to all that good stuff in just a second. All right, we want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing the way that we all want them to. But FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime that we're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There is something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Visit FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, we're going to keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Very entertaining hockey game. It's for a cause that's obviously bigger than the game itself, but the first two goals of the night, much to the delight of the crowd there, mostly Ranger fans, were both scored by current players on the New York Rangers. You had Chris Kreider scoring a tip-in goal right from the doorstep there. You also had Matt Rempe on a partial breakaway. He had a couple of guys chasing him, but for the most part, got behind the defense here, basically went right up the center of the ice, took the pass in stride, went to the net, and just roofed it. A nasty shot there by Matt Rempe. There's a couple of videos. I didn't get a video of this one, but there's a couple of videos on Twitter. If you type in Matt Rempe, it'll probably come up. I think Bleacher Report may have posted one of them. The other thing that I got to mention here, I touched on it very briefly earlier in the episode. Jonathan Quick was nasty in this game. For me, I think he's the MVP. He played the entire game, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, but all the current Rangers were on the same team, and all the former Rangers seemed to be on the other team. So you had Quick and Rempe and Kreider. They were all on the same team. That team ended up winning in the shootout. It was interesting seeing Quick out there because, again, he did play the whole game, so all 50 minutes. He attended last year's Shoulder Check showcase, but did not play in it. He was on the ice, but he was there in street clothes. So just nice to see him out there doing his thing. And, again, being part of just what was a wonderful night at Terry Connors Ice Rink. Basically, you have the team in the white jerseys. They had all the former Rangers. They were up 5-4 at halftime. The team in the black jerseys came storming back. And to give you a quick rundown of the goals being scored in the second half of this game, you had Trevor Zegras tying the game at 6-6 with a breakaway goal. Kreider then gave the black jerseys a 7-6 lead with a breakaway goal of his own. And then white jerseys tied it somehow. I forget who scored, but it was 7-7. And then for the second straight year at Shoulder Check Showcase, we go to a shootout, a 5-round shootout. You had Mason McTavish scoring first. I believe that was the third round, making it 1-0 in favor of the white jerseys. Sonny Milano immediately answers for the black jerseys. He scores and ties it. And then it was time for Trevor Zegras versus Chris Kreider in the fourth round. They were the two captains for the respective teams in this game, for what that's worth. But you had Trevor Zegras. He went in. He tried a trick shot. You know what? I have a video of this. I'm not even going to try to describe it. Let's just go ahead. And as soon as I can figure out how to cue this up here, we will do exactly that. Let's go ahead. There we go. There's Trevor Zegras. And again, if you're on audio, again, I'll talk you through it. But I definitely recommend, checking this out a little bit later if you get the opportunity to do so, because it really was a cool thing and definitely worth checking out some of these videos. So no further ado, here you go. Here is Trevor Zegras and also Chris Kreider. So there you go. Chris Kreider scores what turns out to be the game-winning goal in the Shoulder Check Showcase. I got one more video I want to play for you guys here. This is how the game ended. This is what I alluded to in the intro of today's episode. So let's go ahead and we'll watch Swaggy Pete trying to get one by Jonathan Quick here. Here we go. It's funny. It is a laid-back game, and obviously, you don't expect there to be big hitting, and there's no hitting at all. I mean, there's no offsides, there's no icing, there's no penalties, there's no checking, there's no blocking shots or anything like that. But I will say, like, when it was getting toward the end of the game in the second half, look, these people are all professional athletes, and they have some pride, and it picks up just a little bit. People start defending a little bit more maybe than they were a little bit earlier in the game, and you saw from the reaction there, anybody watching on YouTube here, that, yeah, I mean, everybody wanted to win this game, and obviously Team Black Jerseys was able to do just that. So good stuff all around. And again, just a wonderful night. It's really cool. And if you didn't get a chance to go this year, can't possibly recommend it enough this upcoming year. Just for some final thoughts on the entire night here. My thing is just kind of try to take the message of Shoulder Check Showcase as well as the HT40 Foundation with you everywhere you go. If you were there in that building last night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And even if you're not, you can definitely visit the website, watch. I'm not the only one posting videos. If you go on social media right now, a lot of people are doing exactly that. Johnny Lazarus was posting some videos. He was there in attendance last night. We actually had a quick interaction on Twitter talking about maybe doing a crossover episode, Blue Crew Pod, with Locked On New York Rangers. We're thinking about doing that in the future. He sounds like he's up for it. So if you guys are up for it, let me know. I think that's a crossover that is probably long overdue. But, as far as Shoulder Chase Showcase is concerned, I've said this multiple times in the lead up to this game. I think I mentioned it once a little bit earlier here tonight as well. Very simple message, but a very profound, very powerful, very important message that you just want to make sure that nobody ever feels alone. And it's a crazy world out there. I think we all know that. I could point to a lot of different examples right now. I don't have to get into all that, but I think it's, people can kind of get lost in the shuffle at times and feel lost. And I think you watch this game And, Hayden Thorsen is obviously no longer with us. And that's obviously a very, tragic and very sad thing. But I think sometimes people don't realize like how much people care about them and how many people really do care about them, because this isn't I keep trying to say arena. It's not really an arena. It's a rink. It's a rink. But it was absolutely packed to the rafters. You couldn't fit in anybody else. You might eventually have to move this to an actual arena, because it sounds like there's a lot of demand to get in there. A lot of people really want to attend this, and a lot of people filled this rink, last year and this year as well. But that many people showed up for Hayden Thorsen and for this cause and for this movement. And obviously, yeah, there's a hockey game too, and I'm sure everybody wants to see the Rangers and Trevor Zegras and all these players. But I think more than anything, people are united by the cause, united by the concept of the entire thing. And you can make a big difference in somebody's life with some really small gestures. That's something that was kind of a theme in this game as well, when everybody would address the crowd, address the fans before and even during the game. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway there. Small gestures of kindness, of just watching each other's backs, those might seem like just that, small gestures. They may not seem that important, but you can make somebody's day by just like saying hi to somebody, or checking in on them, seeing how they're doing. And it makes me honestly want to like get back in touch with some friends, because there's some friends out there. It's like, man, I got to find out, how this guy's doing and how his life is going, and hopefully everything is good and he's happy and everything. So yeah, it's just a wonderful message, like I said. And straight up, listen, I'm talking about this. I will put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. Straight up, if anybody out there is listening to this, watching this, whatever it might be, if you're struggling with some things in your life, send me an email. We may not know each other that well, but I've been fortunate enough to build, a little bit of a Ranger community here, where we all kind of watch out for each other. We might disagree with each other's Ranger hot takes every so often. I'll hear it every now and then about, oh, I'm missing the point here, or I'm wrong about that player for that reason. But you know what, man, we're all in this together. And that's not just Ranger fans. If there's like a Penguin fan, a Bruin fan, an Islander fan, whatever it might be, same thing goes. Send me an email, send me a DM on Twitter, whatever it is, man. If you need somebody to talk to, I might not know you that well, but I will certainly listen. I will certainly lend an ear. And that's the kind of thing that, I take out of a night like this, is just, we're all in this thing together, and we all got to watch each other's backs and take care of each other. So I am also going to leave a link in the description of this episode on both video and audio. If you click on the link, it will take you to shouldercheck.org. And from there, if you want to make a donation, the donate button is in the top right corner of the homepage. It should be pretty easy to find. I think you'll see it. And yeah, again, this is the second annual Shoulder Check Showcase. I'll repeat what I said last year. This feels very much like an annual tradition in the making, and I will not miss this for the world. As long as they'll keep having me, I'll keep going. Very, very happy to attend this thing and just do a little part here, just spreading the word a little bit with an episode like this. This has also become, it's only the second time we've done it. This has also become one of my favorite episodes to do in the entire Ranger NHL calendar. It really is a wonderful event. So definitely recommend checking it out. And definitely, if you can spare a few dollars, donate to the cause as well. So figure we could pretty much wrap it up there. The only other thing that I want to mention is that I am going to be taking 1 week off from Locked On New York Rangers beginning next week. So this is the final episode for about a week. And then we're going to be back here, good as new, the following week. Ready to go, ready to talk Ranger hockey, ready to get you guys excited for the upcoming season. So thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to the Locked On New York Ranger podcast, your team every day. If you would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.